Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host talking with French people. And the title of this video is really quite telling. It's what to do when Negro spirituals aren't enough. Usually they are, of course. But I woke up this morning, I was tired. I went back to bed, woke up again, I was still tired. Went back to bed. Woke up again. I was still tired, but naturally, I tried singing some Negro spirituals to solve the problem. They usually work. Usually, most problems of like sadness or lack of energy or feeling low or whatever, they're all solved by singing a Negro spiritual. But this morning it didn't work. So what do you do when Negro spirituals aren't enough? Well, that's when it's time to take a little bit of Adderall. Yes, Adderall, the wonder drug that works wonders. Octavia Silva, hello, good morning. I missed you last night. You know why? I'll tell you why. I was doing a little bit of tarot with people, and I would pull things like the 10 of Sticks. I can never remember what the 10 of Sticks is. I just can't ever remember that one. I can remember the 8 of Sticks. Why are all those sticks floating in the air? Nobody knows. Obviously, I can't go check the chart myself. So we were just at a loss for what they meant, but we pulled them anyway. You can't remember all those cards. Who can remember what all those cards mean? Anyway, when I forget what a card, 10 of Wands is easy mode. I like that. That's a good. See, I like it when you get. I like it when you have a little phrase for it, like the 9 of Cups is dinner with Jesus card. 10 of Sticks is easy mode. I like that. And then there's that one. 5 of Cups is spilt milk. Don't cry over spilt milk. I like having little names like that for them. That's cool. I'll remember 10 of Sticks now. It's easy ones. Easy mode. And the reason I call them sticks is because in my deck, they look like sticks, not wands. They all have leaves on them and stuff. You wouldn't think a wand would still have leaves on it. You know what I'm saying? They probably would have taken the leaves off. I mean, unless they forgot to sing a Negro spiritual. Because usually, as I was referring to at the beginning of this, most problems can be solved by singing the Negro spiritual. This morning when I woke up and I was still tired, I sang, Lottie Lod, swing low, I'm still tired. Oh, Lottie Lod. Lod. Like that. It usually wakes me right up. But not so much this morning. I guess probably because I'm not the right race this morning. Usually I can turn on African for a second, but 10 of Wands means you're feeling overburdened because all the sticks on your back, but you're reaching the end goal. Oh, I see. So really, 10 of Wands is like the card, right? That would be what that card is all about. It's about that sound I just made. Like that. I got some good news, Octavia Silva. I went to Smart and Final last night. I got lots of sodas. I got Cheez-Its. It always seems so pointless when I just use a spoon. But I realized, hey, I can make life slightly more convenient for me with these disposable coffee stirrers. So, fuck it, I got them. I sang a little Negro spiritual in the store. Lottie la, thank you for these coffee stirrers. People wonder what I was doing, I explained to them why I always like to sing a Negro spiritual when something excites me. Or I feel like, the cherry just flung low for me, then I celebrate that. play a little cultural heritage. You know, that UNESCO has designated me an international cultural heritage site. It's true. No, in fact, I have been designated by UNESCO as an international cultural heritage site. That means that you can't blow me up during the war. Yeah, pretty good. Like the pyramids. Do people have to pay money to me? No, they just have to pay money to go inside. They can stand outside and take pictures of me all they want. But if they want to go inside, tickets are quite expensive. You know, we're trying to keep it pristine. Trying to keep the insides of me pristine. Okay, well, you know what time it is. Hi, Cloud. You know what time it is, right? Time for what is always an adventure a bit. That is to say, the first bong rip of the day. That's right. First bong rip of the day. I'm going to try this Gorilla Cookies. I like these Gorilla Cookies a lot. I wish I'd gotten 15 grams of this instead of either of the other ones. This is the best one I got. Live and learn, live and learn. I know I always like Gorilla Glues if they're a really good one. Like this one's pretty good. It's not a half-ass Gorilla Glue. So, well, Cloud, you see, right now, everyone's in a really calm and loving mood because we're all singing Negro spirituals. Right now, I'm going to sing a Negro spiritual in honor of this bong rip. La 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 la, swing low bong rip, yeah. Here we go. And Cloud, for the record, I don't have fans. I have either you can call them friends, participants, live streamer participants. I don't know. I don't like the word fans. I don't like it because it makes you like separate or something. Like it's pretty obvious, Cloud. Well, you definitely are a live stream participant and a friend of sorts. You are definitely not a fan of me. You know, it's like that's what's cool about this place. Is that I don't really have fans. We have people who yell at me. And yeah, you are, Cloud. You are a friend. I spend a lot of time with you. I mean, you and I may butt heads occasionally, but that just proves you're good at provoking me, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're entitled to be good at that, and you're entitled to exploit that to the best of your ability. So, yeah. You know, I don't like the word fans at all. It's so presumptuous. Like the other day, I told you about how I don't relate to any users' vast knowledge of many different subjects. Do you think that was indicative of me possibly being more ISFP than INFP? I don't know, Octavio. I don't have a clear read on you from these chats. You do seem more chatty than I would think an ISFP would be, but I would agree it's not necessarily it's not a particularly INFP-ish kind of chattiness. It's hard to say. Like, I mean, the fact that you're here all the time doesn't seem particularly consistent with especially high SE. Because, I mean, here's the thing, Octavia, so I'm not going to lie to you. You're not really doing anything productive right now. It may feel like it. It feels like it sort of to me too. But for both of us, we're kind of just killing time. And that's kind of an INFP thing more than an ISFP thing, you know? but that's not definitive, it's hard for me to say for sure. All I know is I very much appreciate you, Octavio Silva. And so much so that when you aren't here, I go, God, I wish Octavio Silva were here because I'm trying to shoot the tarot shit. Hi, Eileen. How you doing? What are some clarifying questions for deciding any versus SE? I mean, that's a tough one. You can ask plenty of any questions, like how many synonyms can you think of to come up with? Can you come up with for this word? You could do, sort of improvisational poetry kind of thing, or whatever. Those kind of tests will usually push on the any and see how vigorous it is. If you've got second slot, you probably enjoy those kind of tests. You're not just able to come up with something and that's it or whatever. Okay, Cloud, you tell Octavio Silva what the proper any test is, okay? Well, so coming up with words is the same thing as remembering stuff? Let me explain the difference. So let's say I asked you to memorize a set of synonyms for a word. And then I said, can you produce for me the synonyms for this word? And then you repeat back to the ones you memorized. That's SI. If I ask you for synonyms for a word that you haven't thought about before, you haven't memorized synonyms for, and you're pulling possible words that might be considered synonyms, some of which are actually synonyms and some of which are sort of synonyms, and some of which you can really kind of push hard to make the argument they might be synonyms or something similar. That's an NE process where you're coming up with possibilities for which words might work for this. You haven't learned it before. You've learned words before. You have all the words in your head because obviously you know how to speak, but it doesn't mean you've learned that thing before particularly. You're generating a response on the fly. Ask me a synonym question that isn't cup. All right, so the best kind of synonyms questions, things like, how many synonyms can you think of for the word righteous? That's a good synonym question because it's a difficult word to come up with synonyms for. And that'll push you to come up with semi-synonyms. It's like, that's what you want to do. If you ask for a word that doesn't have a lot of really good direct synonyms, any people will come up with things that are related that aren't really synonyms, trying to answer the question with as many answers as possible. Whereas not any people will come up with one or two synonyms and go like, I can't really think of any more because they don't want to push into the realm of things that aren't really synonyms. SI questions are pretty easy to ask, yeah. You can also tell SI users, strong SI users, tend to give a lot of examples. Well, I mean, see, that's the sort of thing that any people don't care about, usually. Octavio Silva. You say, I'm not sure I have a good grasp on the definition of righteous to begin with. Well, I mean, the first sentence that jumps to my mind is upstanding, moral, good, worthy, benevolent, positive. That's the thing about the synonym question. If you're trying to avoid being wrong, then you're probably not NE, because NE goes this, being honorable. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Mom. Honorable is another synonym for that. Valiant. Valiant's great too. Yeah, paladins are righteous. Paladin-esque. So like any user would say paladin-esque. Is it a word? No, but it's fine, right? Because it's a synonym, sort of. That's the kind of close enough kind of attitude that NE has that a lot of times other functions don't necessarily display. Good morning, Winston's mom. I hope you were rested and have enjoyed a bowl of yogurt and granola this morning. That's what I'm prescribing for breakfast for you this morning, Winston's mom. I'm the breakfast prescriber. You people call me up in the morning, they ask me, what am I having for breakfast? And I prescribe them a breakfast. Just, Valiant. Those are both good ones. I didn't come up with Valiant. Valiant's not really exactly a synonym, so that's good, or indication of something. It's a tough one, right? Righteous. Or coquettish. You had a bagel and then a nap. Okay, well, I'm doing pretty well. You know why, Winston's mom? Because when I woke up this morning, I'll tell you, David Sanderson, right now. When I woke up this morning, I was a little tired, feeling a little blue, maybe even. Not very enthusiastic, not very, very positive. Why? Well, just because I'm in a period of waiting right now for Rachel to get here. And there's all these sort of little things I need to do, like rearrange my room and stuff, or clean, or whatever. And I'm just kind of being like, oh, yeah, about everything. I'm fairly directionless. I'm in limbo for a number of reasons. My dad's in limbo with my mom in this long-term care and the meow. And he doesn't like to sort of proceed forward ideationally until he's experienced the new reality that comes in April 1st or whatever. So I just am in general in limbo right now. So why? When I am blue, doubt, I sing a Negro spiritual to make myself feel better. How is that going to get me banned? This morning, for example, I woke up, was feeling a little blue, like I said. So naturally, I sang a Negro spiritual. Remember, doubt, I am transracial. I'm often an African, and I'm not right now, but that's not the point. So I sang lottie lod, swing low, feeling blue, lottie lod. Normally that helps. Sometimes an uplifting Negro spiritual is not enough. And in that instance, it's time to take Adderall. How is that going to get me banned? I don't understand. I am celebrating. How can my race change? It changes all the time. It's like it shifts. It's fluid. It shifts from day to day. And sometimes I'm African. Sometimes I'm Asian. Sometimes I'm Hawaiian. I was French Canadian for a long time. I was born transracial. That's how. I didn't become transracial. I was born this way. Gender fluid's ridiculous because there are only two genders, really. And well, I mean, you could be gender fluid, but you can't be sex fluid, you know. I'm gender fluid too. I go from extremely womanly to extremely manly and back again. And I'm also transageal. My age changes. I go from about 14 now. I haven't really been much younger than 14 for a while. Up to about 40. I never quite reached my actual age. But most importantly, I'm transracial because race is completely arbitrary. And so it's just whatever you decide it to be, whatever you say it is. So that's what I am. I'm transracial. So if somebody says, well, like, you can't talk about Negro spiritual, why not? I'm African American. What is your opinion on death? Avoid it. It's my opinion on death, Cloud. It's bad. Avoid it. You can never tell at what point you go from being serious to ironic. I'm serious. I'm transracial. What's ironic about that? You see, this is the advantage of being transracial is, first of all, nobody can ever call you racist. In fact, they're racist because I'm more disadvantaged than they are. I've been all of the different races, even the ones that are most disadvantaged. I've also been a woman in those races, the most disadvantaged, and a young woman in those races. So nobody can ever play like you lack identity qualifications with me. In fact, if they want to play that, they lack identity qualifications. So that's why I'm transracial. And I'm serious because the fact that people can't tell if I'm serious or ironic, when I'm talking about that, shows how insane things have gotten. Completely insane. Okay, well, why would the AI algorithm ban videos about Negro spirituals? They're part of our America's cultural heritage. I don't understand. Why would YouTube be that racist as to ban everything about Negro spiritual? Why not ban everything about jazz and blues and other origins of American music? That's not nice. That's not okay. Just because I'm a fan of Negro spirituals? And Cloud, I also want to note that I see us both evolving in some sort of, like two planets crash together and then sort of recoalesce into things that they orbit around each other, kind of thing. Logan Paul's not favored by YouTube anymore. They banned his ass. Well, I often am 14. For example, I'm right now a 14-year-old on summer vacation. I'm smoking bong rips, playing YouTube. I'm a 14-year-old on permanent summer vacation. That's how I like it. And my 14-year-old girlfriend's coming back from New York pretty soon. It's going to be great. We're going to have a sleepover. My parents are cool with it. But my dad even says my 14-year-old girlfriend and me, as 14-year-old Eric, can live together here in the back house. Isn't that great? But I actually feel sort of college age-ish right now. Well, can you please hit like? Yes, you can hit like if you want to. Age is a real thing, obviously. You can, it's pretty obvious I'm over 21. You can just look at me and see that. That's about as real a thing as you get. The thing that's just completely nonsense made up is race. And there's no justification for anybody using race in any argument ever. Any kind of racial argument is always divisive. It's always bullshit. It's always making an appeal to the person rather than the argument. And so I make an effort to undermine that and recapture that and reclaim it and seize that ground, Because, of course, people who are stupid enough to buy into that stupid ass shit, well, they're not sure what to do with transracial. Oh shit, maybe I need to be super respectful of this guy. He's transracial? Wait, what? Is that a thing? It goes to show you how crazy people have gotten, right? There is no race, so I can be transracial. There is gender, so I can't be transgender. If you want it, Cloud, if you say you are, okay? Because you are whatever you say you are. Then I say you are. Look, the thing is, it is absolutely fine to want to self-identify as whatever you want to self-identify as. And it's absolutely not okay to think that other people must view you that way too. So I self-identify as transracial. I don't insist everybody else. That never happened, David Sanderson, disparaging against white people. What are you talking about? That's never happened. I don't disparage any race. I don't think race is relevant to anything. I hate race. It's never the case that I'd be disparaging anybody, any group like that. It just doesn't work that way. Not with me. I'm not that kind of guy. That's bad argumentation. Did it? See, YouTube needs to I still see it. I don't even want to get into that. In fact, that I'm going to remove. Okay. I don't even want to get into that conversation. It's just that's too saucy a conversation. The thing is, the race conversation is important because people say, well, race is a social construct. It's not even that. It's an arbitrary self-identification label. So that means to say, remember, if you want to believe in race at all, then you're on the side of the slavers. Slavers invented race to justify violating individuals' rights. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to, race exists for one reason and one reason only, to justify scoundrels in their violating of people's rights. It's the only reason the concept exists at all. We got to justify how we're going to violate these people's rights. I know, let's make up this thing called race. So anybody who believes in race, thinks race is important, likes to use race in arguments, or otherwise references race at all, is on the side of slavers. I just would rather not discuss that, Cloud. First of all, my position on age of consent is appropriate, and let's not mess with it. And obviously, there's going to be some borderline cases that are iffy, but I don't. It's like there's no reason to even discuss the issue. Frankly, it's like it's such a non-issue because you're talking about trying to preserve people's resources and autonomy for when they're fully realized as agents rather than letting them use them all up before they're very old. So that's why you don't let little kids get tattoos, for example. You're trying to preserve. Well, I mean, I agree with you, David Sanderson. I don't think that believing race is a thing means you approve of slavery. It means you have been frame-walked by the slavers. In other words, if I say to you, people, there's a big problem with people with V's in their name. The correct response is not, I have a V in my name and I'm proud. The correct response is, you're stupid, Eric. See what I'm saying? If you think that I have a B in my name and I'm proud, you've been frame-walked by somebody who is just trying to justify violating your rights for no reason. Now, you might think it's okay to be frame-walked. I don't. I think we ought to prioritize the truth. Yeah, I'm iffy about that person. Well, what did they put that got timed out? I didn't even see it. I could look at it, actually. Let me see. Never mind. I could look at it. You deleted the message. That one's fine. Biddly, 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 bong, yo. I mean, I agree. I anticipate that person being a troll, but there's nothing wrong with that one, was there? Why did you time them out, Eileen? Eileen, I don't know if your core have a wrench. What did they put the time that earned them a timeout? Huh? You're being a little East German with your wrench, Eileen. Das ist verboten! Well, I mean, how idiotic is that? And how idiotic is that, Anchor Jason Blood? It's completely stupid, right? To believe that you're better for something that's completely made up, like I have a V in my name, right? So now we've gone from let's persecute everybody with a V in their name to I have a V in my name and I'm proud, to two sets of people, those who have V's in their name who think they're better than those who don't, and those who don't have V's in their name who think they're better than those who do. And why? Because no one's pointing out the obvious fact that it's completely nonsense. It's completely random thing that links to nothing. That any concept of what a race is created in the perceiver, not in the perceived. It's not made up, but it's still subjective. No, race is made up. The particular random characteristics that one points to, those are physical attributes. That's true. But the concept of them comprising a race is insane. And so embracing this as a relevant factor to anything and identifying as a race or whatever is just being frame-walked. It's just the example I just gave. I have a V in my name and I'm proud. Or, look, I don't have a V in my name, but I really do care about people with V's in their name now. What? No, let's all be smart instead. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. 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 Absolutely not, David Sanderson. When people treat completely like arbitrary concepts like that as something real, I always jump on it and bust their chops. That's my job in the world, you know? It's to point out things that everybody thinks is right, but are obviously wrong. Things like race are an example of being frame-walked. Things like evolution are an example of being frame-walked. And things like having to worry about whether this video gets banned because of the title, and I'm not worried about it because obviously I am the voice of reason. I am the voice of truth. I am the voice of goodness. I am the voice of the righteous. I'm trying to eliminate divisive nonsense. I'm trying to attack divisive nonsense and muddy it and make it less divisive and make people understand that it's bullshit. So if YouTube wants to have a problem with me, then YouTube has a problem with itself. I didn't say I have a monopoly on truth, but I am the only one who's doing it right, Ethan, which is to say, I am here speaking the truth. And when people want to challenge me, they come here and challenge me as you just did. And I answer them on point. When I am wrong, I say, I am wrong. You were right. You win the point. And together, as a consequence, we work towards increasing truth. I have been articulating words about various things on the internet now for a long time. And what has that done? Because I have a disinterested calculus, it has caused me to parse away those aspects of what I say that are wrong and retain those aspects of what I say that withstand scrutiny, that win on the field of battle with argumentation. Truth is subjective. Well, the truth is not subjective exactly. Okay, truth is neither subjective or objective, but truth is not universal. That's true. So let's do this, Ethan. Let's explain why truth is neither subjective nor objective. If you and I agree that a given statement is true for the sake of argumentation, then for the sake of that argument, it is objectively true. It's been agreed upon. Agreement, therefore, is a way to attain objective status for truth. Okay, so that's one way to do it. If we both agree the sun sets in the west, then it's true for the sake of whatever argument we're using that fact for. And the fact is, such occasions never occur except in communications of some sort. It's a mistake to think that arguments exist in a vacuum outside of any exchange between people. And that's what it is to do to say the truth is either subjective or objective. We each have things that we affirm as true, and sometimes they match, and sometimes they don't. When they don't, what we can do is say, well, okay, here are these other things that I affirm as true, and here's these other things that you affirm as true. And now we can do the logic and realize, oh, you're wrong and I'm right, or whatever, the other way. The reason for that is you have to smoke ground up ENTPs, Cloud. It's the only way to do it. It's a good question, though. I like it. Oh my goodness. Matthew and Cloud. How are your anuses? Intersubjective, subjective, or objective, depending on how you define it. I agree with that. Well, I mean, depending on the context. So the thing is, what you call intersubjective, though, I want to know what you mean by that. Do you mean what I'm saying about reaching agreement? Is that intersubjective? Is that what you call intersubjective, David Sanderson? The thing is, we have to remember that we've got 4 fields of existence: internal metaphysical, external metaphysical, internal physical, external physical. So for objects on the external physical field, they have attributes, and statements about things that have attributes can be established objectively as true because the object that one is viewing is an actual physical object. So in other words, describing things on the physical field allows us to have examples of truths that can be empirically checked universally by everybody. The key thing in an objective truth is that the object being talked about has to be objective data, which is to say accessible by all parties equally. And so if you're talking about something that is objective data, then you can make descriptive statements about objective data that can be verified as true through the objective verification process of multiple third parties viewing data from each independently and each equally. And if everybody agrees, then that's what the data is. Something that's very difficult to agree about, and something that's easier. There's something called a rhetorical slope, which is the name of a channel I still plan to start. It's going to be exclusively about debate and argumentation stuff. So while it's hard to defend the notion that a given thing is absolutely true, it's easy to defend the notion that a given thing is difficult to argue against or easy to argue against, right? Well, sure, but Anchor Jason Blood, now that's why we're getting into this quality called rhetorical slope. So basically, simplicity or complexity is one vector in rhetorical slope. The more involved, the more complicated an argument is to explain, the steeper the slope, or this, if you have an argument that's very easy to sustain, you might say it's flat. There really aren't any arguments that are downhill, because that would imply that your opponent is helping you. And we need to remember that every argument is made in a context where, just to say, there's a person making the argument and an opponent, whether it's presumed or not. So the nice thing, David Sanderson, is because of the way that rhetoric works and the way people talk and communication works and affirmation negation works, we don't need absolute certitude about anything. And I mean, and remember, absolute certainty is something that is possessed only by individuals. It doesn't exist external. So it's whether or not you would agree with me that we can be absolutely certain about something. I might be absolutely certain. You might be absolutely certain. What you're trying to say is, ought we objectively be absolutely certain? Well, we can agree we ought to be, or we can agree that we are, or whatever. But the point is, everything has a rhetorical slope. All kinds of claims, arguments, warrants, words we say to each other, they have rhetorical slope. And some things are very straightforward, and we don't even bother talking about arguing them. So it's like, if I go, last night I went to Smart and Final, I got all these groceries and stuff. You wouldn't bother challenging me on that one because the data is subjective. What does that mean? It means I remember what I did last night, and I also can see the bag Smart and Final stuff right there. And so you wouldn't bother even challenging it, because the only way you'd be challenging it is to say I was lying to you, because you don't have access to my memories. If, for example, you had observed me last night someplace for a long stretch of time that made it impossible for me to have gone to Smart and Final, you'd say, how did you go to Smart and Final last night if blah, 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 blah. So sometimes one person's experience can contradict another person's statements about their own experience. But if you don't have such experience that allows you to contradict my experience because of your experience, then you'd never even bother challenging it. You just assume, well, Eric's the one who has the information or the data. He has subjective data. He's talking about his memories and what he did last night in his own life, So why would I bother challenging that? It would be the equivalent of saying, I'm feeling sad right now. You wouldn't bother challenging that. No, you're not, because it's subjective data. You can't access it. So I'm the only one who can access it. So if I make statements about it, we don't usually bother challenging those statements. On the other hand, there's objective data. Well, yesterday I said this and you said this. No, Eric, you didn't say that. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Well, let's go look at the tape. Let's go back and look at the live stream, see what you said. Oh, I was right. See, Eric, you didn't say that. Oh, my bad. I guess I didn't. Now that's objective data. It's very hard for me to contradict Joe about what I did yesterday if what I did yesterday is on tape, right? So it really makes a lot of difference as to the statements we make as to whether they are referencing objective or subjective data. Note also that when you're talking about truth in the most concrete, meaningful way, you'll note the truth is just is a status we only afford to statements. We use truth to talk about things other than statements all the time, like, oh, that's really a true song. It resonates with me and stuff like that. And those means of truth, those uses of truth are fine and understandable and sort of naturally follow from the idea of truth. But in reality, truth is just a status we afford to statements. A statement is the only thing that can have a truth value, and the truth value can be true, not true, or no truth value. So when we do the meta-analysis like this, all of a sudden everything opens up, right? Now we're not arguing about whether this is true or not, or whether there is truth or not, or whether, it's universal or not. We understand that universally truth is a status we afford to statements. And we do that because of what I just demonstrated. For certain things where there's objective data that all parties can access and evaluate equally, things can be determinedly true. For example, what words I said yesterday, and then you go back and you hear those words, and I did say those words or didn't say those words, that's something about which it's pretty much a binary truth. It's a truth about words. So it's a truth about what words were said, not what they mean, right? It's not an interpretive truth at all. It's a truth that says, Eric, this sentence came out of your mouth yesterday. I say, no, it didn't. I never said that. And you play me the video of me saying that, and everybody said, okay, he did say that. It's like something like, did somebody say those words? And the person spoke on tape. That's pretty much, it's indisputable whether something's true or not true. Question like that. So we can come up with questions about which there is essentially absolute certainty regarding the answers. If we frame the question right. Do INTJs make good debate coaches? No. They make good. No, they don't. I've never really seen one being a debate coach. ESTJs make good debate coaches if they get good at debate, which is strange. Polar. Hi, Rachel, my precious, precious, precious angel. Oh, my darling potato pants. The sunny sunshine of your heart kiss is making me feel like a pointy sunshine. I love you so much. How wonderful to see you. Rachel Apollosa, do you know what I think of when I see you? I think of a distilled glass full of love. A glass full of distilled love, I should say. That was a misplaced modifier. I'm sorry. I was guilty of a misplaced modifier. Give me a B-. What if our common human intelligence is incapable of even fathoming a certain thing and we regard it as not true? Well, again, like if you do the meta-analysis, the question is answered by the the correct understanding of truth, which is truth is a status we afford to statements. So what you're really asking there needs to be reframed. I would ask the question, well, which statements are you saying aren't true? Because otherwise we're misapplying. It's a category error. People make category errors all the time. And that would be one. It would be saying like, okay, if you think, and truth is a perfect example of it. If you want to use truth correctly, you'd say, okay, you'd always talk about it in terms of what statement you're affording the status to and why. If any is akin to talking, that means ISXP's talk the least. I understand this is your concept of it. Yeah, I do. I would affirm that statement. ISXP's talk the least. I'm comfortable with cloud. I'm comfortable with behaving as if things with extreme odds in favor are effectively certain. That's enough. But look, there's different kinds of certainty, right? Definitional certainty is one thing. Something can be definitionally certain. And that's what logic is. It says, I mean, but basically definitionally certain as truth is the same thing as valid. So when you're talking about definitional certainties, you're talking about validities. If all pigs oink and Joe is a pig, then Joe oinks. That is definitionally certain then that Joe oinks because of the definition of the words and the nature of the statement connectives. That means it's basically saying just it's valid. That's a valid argument. So in that case, you're not saying that you're specifically saying this does not link to anything in the real world. These words are being used to demonstrate a quality of language. And when you use words to demonstrate qualities of language, you have the ability to eliminate things for certain. There's conditionality, and there's a binary engine to it. Things are either eliminated or not. Things have one of two statuses. But of course, in terms of like inductive logics, well, you're talking about things that are all sliding scale or spectral. What color is this? Is something we might all agree on. This is blue, but we know that this is blue and this is also blue, and they're different colors. And this is almost bluish too. And it's like, these are spectral things. How loud is that? Well, it's a spectral thing. It's like, it's not loud or quiet. It's not bright or dark. These things exist only on a spectrum. So we nevertheless have words that treat it as though they aren't spectral, because words don't work like that. So we do have words that try to convey aspects of spectrums, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to have a single word to define bright, even though bright represents a range of stuff on a spectrum. So yeah, it's all that kind of stuff. I used to teach logic, David Sanderson, incidentally. Existence of God. I guess truth of a certain statement is either decided by communal observation or by logic. What if logic and observation are incapable of deciding the validity of statement of existence of God? Well, there's lots of different logics. Okay, there's shit tons of logics. TE is, in fact, the way of addressing logics not lingual, logics that are not about language, or logics that are not about symbolic languages. So that's what TE covers. That's the logic of the vacuum cleaner. That's the logic of any system that's not communicative or social. Social systems are handled by FE, but physical logical systems are all handled by TE. So with TI, you're talking about metaphysical logical systems. And what was the question? Magical thinking has its own logic. Introverted feeling has its own logic. Logic, you might say. How do I manage this thing such that importance to the individuals is considered. Social logics have a logic to it that you could parse out, and people do. That's what's like, how to win friends and influence people, or like charisma, that charisma channel talking about how to be charismatic or whatever, how to deal with certain situations socially. I remember I watched this one video of Baron. His name's Baron, on this like how to be charismatic channel. I don't know if anybody else watched it. I forget what the channel's called exactly, but he. I'm going to imitate the video. Okay, this is Baron. So I went to the bar the other night, and I was there with a woman friend, and we approached a group of men, a group of people around a table. And there was a guy there. I'd seen him before. He was clearly an alpha. He was holding court or something. So when I got up to the table, I greeted. Hi, I'm Baron. Nice to meet you, or whatever. He didn't do the or whatever. He's flow. This is his flow. This is not my natural flow, so it's hard for me to flow it, right? Nothing. Completely ignored me. Continues talking to the people around him. Now, what are you going to do in a situation like this? I got a couple of options. One, could just walk away. No shame in that. Don't want to engage this guy, just walk away. Well, I decided not to do that. And so what I did, I waited for there to be a little bit of a break in the music. And I said, "Bro!" And he turned. I said, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Barrett." Just totally switched back to the pleasant thing. And of course, because I had said something really nice and pleasant, then he had to respond accordingly. Oh, yeah, nice to meet you. That guy. That's a FE logic, right? He's FE logicing that. The logic is, this guy's an alpha male, and he's indulging in his alphaness by dismissing me because he doesn't need to pay attention to me because I'm another dude and he's holding court with these chicks, right? And so how am I going to deal with that? So and he talks with this really like, I've obviously practiced this voice to be very manly and very charismatic, and this is how I talk. So no, see, that's the thing. TE interface logics. So it doesn't have a logic within you. It's the capacity to look at a thing and figure out how it works. And with TI, it's inherent. It's hardwired. But of course, if you're not in that attentional modality, then you are more or less, able to engage in it. Just like the same thing with TE. So right, TE outsources the logic of the thing, the conditional logic to a crowd. TE handles the specific logics, but it outsources the universal logics to the crowd. So that's why it appeals to experts. Well, this guy's the expert. Presumably he did all the TI work on it, and I don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with that in general. It's just that for TI people, it's very frustrating because we walk into a situation expecting everybody to do what we do, which is you hear the argument and make a decision yourself based on what's correct. And they go like, I can't do that. So, a perfect example is that lady in Arizona at the coffee shop who was new, I guess, and didn't understand how to add 10% to a bill that for a takeout. Now they want to add 10% to takeout bills because then you don't leave any tip, and that's not. And they want 10% to go to the servers and stuff. So that's fine, no problem with 10%. But she was doing this math thing wrong, and she was charging me. It was supposed to be like $6.60, and she was charging me like $10 or something. And for some reason, she kept like adding 10% to the total bill, and then adding the original bill to that again for some reason. And then I kept trying to explain it to her, but she didn't want to listen to my explanation at all. In fact, she was like, no, 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 no. I'm going to, I've been trained on how to do this. I'm going to do it. Make sure in other words, she said, I have it in my SI, the TE way that I've been trained. I'm going to make sure I've executed that properly. Don't talk to me about whether the answer is correct yet, because I have to make double sure I've executed my process correctly. And once I made a double sure I've executed my process correctly, then the answer must be correct. And then I don't have to listen to you anymore again. So then she comes back to me and says, no, it's definitely this. And I say, it's not that. And here's why. And she wouldn't want to listen to me at all about the TI. She wanted to call her supervisor. It was like 1 a.m. or something. I don't know. Or 5 a.m, 4 a.m. I was leaving super early the hotel to start driving back to Los Angeles. And she called this person. They finally answered, and they told her, no, it's what I had been telling her the whole time it was. And then she came up to me, and she was all, her eyes were all filled with tears. It's fine. I'm sorry. It's fine. I was like, oh my God, please don't cry. It's okay. Hey, it's totally okay. Don't relax. It's like the whole time I wasn't even mad. I was just like, but listen to me though. She didn't want to listen. Why not? Because she was obviously 4th slot TI, that's what I could tell. She was FE dumb, probably ESF, and she remembered the TE that she had been trained in, and she was going to do it that way, So I mean, the thing is this: I really came across. I say the name. Your name is so hard to say. I say the name. ISTN. Iston. I'm gonna call you Iston. Iston there says, but with TE you need to defend your argument to the death because from utility, if you don't defend it, at least you will never determine its worth. Undefended arguments fail too easily. Well, I have this. I have, like, my dad. I was having this discussion with him yesterday about the virus thing. And when I say neither, Gurgi, when I say things like, but the problem here, Dad, is it's not the right reason. And that's, he has an obligation to not just say the right reason, not just say the right answer, but also the right reason. My dad doesn't seem to get that. Like, my dad will figure out the solution to something, and I'll be like, okay, well, look, Dad, this shouldn't be like this. They are not, this is not right. Like, they are dicking you around. What? That's what they said? And I go, like, let me go deal with them. No, Eric, you'll fly off the handle. Dad, but they said this is not, it doesn't matter if we get the thing done, son. It does matter. How do you say it doesn't matter? They're saying bullshit, and you're as long as you get the conclusion you want, you can just sort of let them get away with it and it's fine. My ass. So Gurgi, I like your name, Gurgi. No, my dad is entirely with me on the matter. He thinks it's ridiculous. He thinks it should run its course and kill the elderly. Basically, well, that's nature. You got a pandemic. And it takes out the old and the sick. Nothing wrong with that. It's how it's supposed to be. It's like that. Of course, he's elderly and my mom is elderly, but Note how I'm not making any kind of interesting calculus in this. Oh shit, I've got an elderly dad and an elderly mom. No, 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 no. Everybody, let's panic and shut the world down to prevent this virus from spreading. I'm still making the same logical argument I always would. Interestingly, my son is named Gergie, and he's an INTP. It's efforts that prevent the stop of that help the problem. I'm not saying no. Oh, this is going to help. Let's not do that. I'm Gergie. Yeah, Gergie's a great name. I really like it. Gergie. Everybody's buffering. Everybody's buffering. Every day I'm buffering. Every day you're suffering. Hopefully it stops soon. Every day you're buffering. Are you still buffering? Now it's done buffering. I'm gonna name my son Gergie. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't think I could spell it like that though. Gergie. I mean, I guess in theory. No, you're not talking about that shit, Cloud. I told you. No. Get rid of that comment. Thank you, Octavio. I want to name a car Gergie. Duke just took itself out of the NCAA tournament. I did not do it on purpose. I was recording audio. I was running out of space on my hard drive, and I did what I always do, which is I went through my videos and deleted all the ones that I had piled up recently. And this is absolutely crazy. Duke pulls himself out of a tournament for this virus shit? That's so fucking dumb. Gergie would never have done that. No way would Gergie do that. Jesus Cristo. The insanity. Do you like to rag on liberals or conservatives because you're disagreeable, or do you prefer not to target people on the basis of their political group identity? Yeah, I don't rag on liberals or conservatives. I don't rag on any group. I do point out when people are wrong about specific things. Sometimes I'll point out like this seems to be aligned with leftist or conservative or leftist or rightist stuff, but I don't focus on that at all because that's missing the point. If you're self-identifying with one of these groups, then that's the problem. If you're certain that the liberals are the problem, the conservatives are the problem, that's the problem. You need to be dealing with things like I'm dealing with them, namely on an issue by issue basis. Is a clear, correct course of action, and we should engage in that one, and that we can determine which is the correct course of action through argumentation and through logic, and that's what I do. And so when I explain to everybody in the world that this is incredibly stupid about how people are responding to the virus, it's for a good reason. The fatality rate is shockingly low, much lower than that which is officially put out there. Lyrophagical? Do I trust psychologists? I mean, I don't trust or not trust groups of people like that. I deal with the person and I discover whether or not they're smart or stupid, basically. Or if you want to make a specific argument, a specific sort of thing you're talking about, I don't have a general perception of psychologists. It depends on the individual person. What do you think of the types and the experience of psychedelics for types. I have an ISTJ friend, and because they have low NE and I, they don't seem to care much about the altered perception. ISFJs don't like psychedelics. I'll tell you that much. ISFJs do not like psychedelics. They don't like mushrooms. They don't like acid. Eric, the flu is far more tolerable than coronavirus because it's fairly new and novel. Why is everyone talking about it? That's why everyone's talking about it, you're saying? I know you said ISTJ. I don't really know about ISTJ regarding that. I don't think they would be interested in doing psychedelics, but my friend Cameron smokes a lot of weed. Yeah, and a little bit, Octavio. I get that the coronavirus is novel, and I get that as a consequence, it has unknown qualities to it that are that make it a little bit more concerning than something we're more familiar with. The infection is highly contagious. The fatality rate is low, and our bodies are not conditioned to fight this virus. Well, so what are we going to do about it then? We're going to wait until we get we're going to keep the world locked down until we get a inoculation for it. The thing is, if it is so incredibly infectious and contagious, and it really has such an incredibly small amount of impact on people, then just let it run its course, and the immune systems, everybody will adjust and accordingly. If in fact it can spread through the population very quickly, if not quarantined properly, then why are we doing haphazard random shit instead of just quarantining the fuck out of everybody? Well, because the fatality rate is what's going to determine whether or not how extreme the measures are we have to take. And with a fatality rate incredibly low, we already know is at most 0.5%. Because remember, we're talking about 22 people out of over 1,000 who've died in the United States, and the number of infected people is at least 4 times minimum. That's very conservative. 4 times as many people as are reported as infected. So we're talking about probably 4,000 cases with 22 deaths, and most of the cases hardly any symptoms. So in other words, do a cost benefit analysis. Is a quarantine justified? Will it work? Number one. Or is it too late already? Have the cows already left the barn? And if it's already out in the population in incubation stage and people don't even know it and they're carrying it and stuff, then it's a waste of time. It's already too late. Somebody explain to me how much these measures we're taking are going to help, if they're going to help definitively, and whether it's worth the efforts, whether it's worth the cost of making the efforts. So in China, spread to like 100,000 people in 2 months. That's not nearly as fast as I would expect, actually, frankly. But so look, Lero Fujikal, let's look at the numbers in the United States, and we can see that that's completely wrong, completely bullshit. We have 22 deaths and over 1,000 confirmed cases. So that's about 2%. And the reality is, given the 2-week incubation period and the fact that most people experience very mild symptoms, maybe not even know they have it, the number of infected people at least 4 times that much. We're talking about 0.5% fatality rate. That's the truth and correctness about the matter. But people are taken up with alarmism and irrationality. In order to affirm that we take a given action, we need to establish some basic things. We need to establish that it will solve the problem we think it's going to solve and not actually exacerbate it, for example. We need to understand that it will the amount of solution it will give to the problem will outweigh the costs of implementing the solution. And that's not been established. So, it's like Nobody is making the correct arguments to correctly affirm this thing. The numbers are going to skyrocket, as Winston's mom says here. No, Lero Fujiko, I'm not talking about the source. I'm talking about the argument. You're talking about Italy. Your numbers in Italy. I'm talking about numbers in the United States. We don't know the rate for sure, but it will be higher than 0.5. No, it will be much lower than that probably, because Winston's mom points out the truth. We've not begun testing people in any degree yet. We have tested under 10,000 people so far. When we begin testing, the numbers will skyrocket, but the death rate won't. So that means this death rate will go way down, will plummet, because most people don't experience any symptoms from it. So this is the thing. I hate that this became an anti-Trump thing, political leanings. I hate that too, because Eric, there are countries with a high percentage of elderly population, and it's not quarantined properly. People. I'm talking about what the United States should do. I'm not talking about what other countries should do. I'm not interested in discussing that. Most people show little or no symptoms who have been tested. That's what my source says. That's what every reliable source says. So as a consequence, Winston's mom point about we've only tested 10,000 people. Once we start testing a large number of people, the numbers of people who are infected by it already will skyrocket. Tom Hanks has it. His wife has it. I don't read any articles about them being hospitalized or anything, or even being particularly ill. The death rate will be lower. Most places will have hot zone spikes where there's more elderly or the homeless camps that already have health problems. Right. When people already have health problems and they get this additional thing, then maybe that pushes them over the edge. It's like the thing is this double counting and shit. It's like some elderly person dies. They're 95 years old and they die. And they die from coronavirus. But they were a smoker before and they had respiratory problems. So they also died of smoking-related illness, and they died of lung disease, and they died of heart disease, and they died of all these things, right? So then we get these numbers. Well, how many people each year die of heart disease? Well, she did. How many people? So, okay, so then let's see. In other words, you get a total number of people, deaths that exceed the pool of actual dead people. Well, I mean, maybe Italy, Italy could be counting everybody who's died in that period of time as a corona death. We don't know. We don't know how their counting system is working. We don't know how many people actually have it. The thing is, here's the problem, guys. Here's the problem. You can talk all you want about how dangerous this virus is. What ifs? First of all, those are not good arguments, Anchor Jason Blood. What if it does this? What if it does that? And this is a possible consequence, possible harm of getting a virus, a novel virus, blah, blah, blah. Here's the problem. That's inherency. That's inherency. An inherency argument says this is a significant problem. We ought to do something to stop it because of these serious considerations. Okay, we don't even know if the virus can be wiped about our system. I don't know what that means, but all this stuff, these are inherency arguments. Even if you establish that it's critically important that we stop this virus to spread, you still have to show me that some action you plan to take will be effective in stopping the spread if we're going to take that action. We should not put sandbags around a part of the river that's not going to overflow, and we should not put sandbags on a part of the river that is going to overflow if all the water is just going to flow around it, right? There's no point in putting those sandbags there. We have to sandbag the whole thing or none of it, because the water is going to just flow right over anyway. So don't tell me that because a flood's a big problem, we had to spend a shit ton of resources building a single pile of sandbags here when the water's just going to go around it. So, but do you hear what I'm saying, Anchor Jason Blood? You say it's important to quarantine nonetheless, but is the quarantine going to work at all? How much quarantining are we going to do? Are you going to lock everybody in their house or what? And what if the research doesn't produce a vaccine? What if we're all quarantined for 6 months, a year, 2 years, waiting for this vaccine? Do we know for sure that at what point do the costs of your preventative measures outweigh even the most extremely inflated possible harms from it? Given the fact that you've not even yet shown that your solution, that your efforts will solve it all. Until anybody can show me any of these efforts will actually solve, then I will not embrace any of these efforts. I will not support any of these efforts. They're ridiculous. They're stupid. They make no sense. Why? Because if it is in fact the case, this is a serious problem and we desperately need to do something about it, then figure out something that will work. I have given you basic logical reasons why these sort of half-assed quarantines aren't going to work. And nobody disputed any of them. Well, it's still bound to help a little bit, Ak. Well, how much is it going to help? Is it? Are you sure? Why are you so sure it's going to help a little bit? What's the logic behind that? Basic quarantine, like checking at the airport or preventing. Okay, sure. It's like, fine. I'm totally fine with airport checkers. Fine. Test everybody who comes in the country. I don't care. You want to quarantine everybody coming into the country for a day while the results of the test come back. Even I think it's extreme, but makes some sense. Pulling out of the NCAA tournament when you're Duke makes no sense. Makes no sense. It won't prevent them. It won't prevent them from getting the illness, and it won't stop the spread of the illness. There's a common conception, even among top-class debaters, debate is merely a sport and not a means of reaching truth. You disagree with that assessment? What is your reason for thinking that way? Well, I think it's a matter of rhetoric or dialectic. In other words, the tools of debate are absolutely critical in reaching truth, but they need to be applied in a non-adversarial context. The adversarial context is excellent for determining what the truth is. If you don't care about agreement or anything. Like, for example, I know in large part what the truth is because debate has taught me what the best arguments are, the strongest arguments. But I also know that there are some arguments that don't win in debate that are nevertheless true because the reason they don't win in debate is because they're too complicated. The rhetorical slope is too steep. It may be the correct argument to make, but the linkage it involves too much argumentational work, and so you're not going to win the round with it. Death happens most often when you don't have proper care, so slowing the spread is equivalent to increasing healthcare support over time. I mean, the thing is, what I get a lot from the virus alarmism crowd is it's inevitable. We have to do something to stop it. But you just said it was inevitable. Is it inevitable? Or are these efforts going to stop it because of meh? Nobody's saying these efforts are going to stop it because of meh. This is going to help because of meh. Nobody's explaining the logic behind this shit. Why is Duke pulling out of the tournament? Because they don't want their players to get this disease? I mean, just get it already. We probably already have it. I probably already have it. I'm not taking a dismissive approach. I'm saying do your work, alarmists. And if you're not doing your work and insisting on taking action anyway, then that qualifies as alarmism. In other words, explain to me how this action you're going to take is going to help, or don't take the action because you've not adequately affirmed it. I don't want to get it either. I'm not saying, let me hang out with somebody who has it or whatever. But I don't really know. Who knows what it's like? Hi, Tom Jickelson. No, if I intended. None taken. None taken. That doesn't change the fact, Eileen, that he wouldn't enjoy it. Not even recognizing it is, in fact, totally consistent with not enjoying it. All right, so this is a great question. What if somebody from my family were to get affected by the virus? I wouldn't blame anybody for failing to take more action, and I wouldn't go retroactively say, gosh, I wish we had taken more action. I would say, well, that's what happens. I mean, we got a pandemic. My mom died from it. That's what pandemics do. They take out the weak and the elderly. She was going to die shortly anyway. That's what I would say. Of course. Why wouldn't I say that? Oh, no, we should have done a bunch of other pointless, wasteful things to prevent the inevitable. No, I'm not going to say that. Why would I say that? I mean, it's just being sensible, for God's sakes. God, I can't believe you didn't. My mom died and you guys didn't waste a shit ton of resources. Well, she was going to die anyway, and why would I want you to waste a shit ton of resources? Because it makes me feel better because it's theater, like doing something? Bullshit. I don't want illogical shit done. Quarantine slows the spread. Everybody says this. Okay, so how much quarantine do we need to do? And how much is going to slow the spread? Are we quite sure it's going to really slow the spread at all? Because it depends really how much it's already in the population. We don't have a good sample to justify any conclusions about whether or not a quarantine is going to work. Slowing the spread prevents healthcare infrastructure from becoming oversaturated. So how much is it worth it? How much ought we spend? How many people ought we hurt in order to prevent this oversaturation? If we hurt 1 million people economically in ways that negatively affect their lives, is that okay? In order to prevent this oversaturation of the healthcare infrastructure, assuming, of course, that there's sufficient severe cases that seek actual medical care, and that, in fact, it's not, as they say, mostly just people who don't even notice they have it. No, that's not what I'm saying. We don't need to know it's going to work 100%. You need to explain why we ought to believe. There's 3 elements to an impact calculus: probability, magnitude, and time frame. So you don't need to show me that, for example, your thing is going to 100% solve, but you do need to 100% show that you're convinced there's a good reason to believe it's going to solve. So if there's not any good reason to believe it's going to solve, you can't present any except that, well, quarantines work. Quarantines slow the processes. I mean, model this fucking thing. Given where the population centers are here, if we do model it and show me what happens. If we do model it and show me what happens. Give me some data like that, right? I want to see this actually slowing the spread, because it is also the reality that some things you can take a quarantine and have no effect at all. It totally failed, right? That's possible. They tried to quarantine this in China. It totally failed. It escaped anyway. Now it's in multiple population centers in the United States that we know of already. So no, that's not what I'm saying. I say the nay. I'm saying we don't bother doing things until we know that we're not going to cause unintended harm, which is certainly possible, and that we're not going to do a pointless thing that's going to do nothing. Show me some reason to believe that something's going to help, okay? A good reason to believe it. If we don't have any reason to believe something's going to help, then what you are doing is just theater and could be harmful. The thing is, the reason we negate and we do not act when we don't have a good reason to act is because taking action has unintended consequences. So you're going to take action that might help, but you're not going to establish why you think it's going to help. You're not going to give me any reason to counter my logic that will just go around your little wall there, right? You're not going to give me any answer to that. You're just going to say, oh, you're demanding too much of a level of proof before we act. No, I'm not. I'm saying weigh all the impacts, including the economic harms, demonstrate that you're going to cause that much added benefit in some concrete way. Show me the probability, the magnitude of the impact, the time frame of the impact. Make some predictions. Don't just say, even though I have no reason to believe and I'm unable and unwilling to provide anything concrete about this at all, we should do this action anyway because it generally feels like it goes along with efforts that stop diseases. That's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. You need to actually establish something. I'm not saying you should never quarantine. I'm not saying that. In this one, question of quarantines is sometimes predicated on the severity of the disease, right? So whether or not how strong our quarantine efforts need to be depend on how severe the disease is. How severe the disease is gets measured generally by fatality rate, or it could be just this sort of how much it lays somebody out. Well, this is very low severity on both measures. And so as a consequence, we got to take lesser quarantine efforts than if it were much more severe, right? Obviously, yes. Now, if you're still saying, but it's severe enough to justify quarantine efforts, well, how many quarantine efforts are justified? We have to do some sort of calculation. We have to make some sort of calculation as to how much a given quarantine effort is going to work versus another prospective quarantine effort. Let's say we have 2 quarantine efforts that are being proposed. We can only do one right now. Which one are we going to do? We have to be able to distinguish between them. Which one's going to be more effective, right? So if you can't even begin to calculate those questions or try to, or are unwilling to even try, then no, we shouldn't do any of your actions. Dark Phoenix, that is bullshit. It's easy to change my position. Simply be right. Make a good argument. Anchor Jason Pledge says, had they implemented the quarantine earlier, this would not have happened. But they didn't, and it did happen. So now, tell me, where do we put the quarantine? How do we implement it so that it's maximally effective? What do we do? Well, to answer that question, you'll have to understand what aspect of the quarantine is actually working on. So how is this quarantine preventing the spread of disease? Well, so what should we do? Should we do the airport thing? Okay, great. What does that mean? It means now the disease is not coming in from outside. Great. It's already here. So that might slow the spread a little bit. How much is that going to cost? And is it worth that cost? How much harm is it being done that's unanticipated consequences, unintended consequences, collateral damage, right? We can calculate those pretty concretely. Those are demonstratively certain impacts. Now, your impacts are all speculative, but even so, you're saying, I agree. Sometimes it's important to quarantine. How do we make that decision? How do we determine what justifies quarantine and what level of quarantine? Well, we look at various factors. When we look at those factors in the situation here, we realize, no, we ought not quarantine. It's insane. Questions like, will the quarantine work? How serious is the disease in terms of fatality? How serious is the disease in terms of, what's the word I'm looking for? Laying somebody out, like making them no longer effective. Look, I'm telling you a good point, right? We have to calculate whether or not quarantine efforts are deserved and ought be implemented based on some metrics. Forget about whether my position is. Forget my position for a second. What are the metrics we used? How likely is the quarantine to work? And we need to know this because we have to decide not just whether or not to quarantine, but between possible quarantine plans, okay? So you must be able to tell me the extent to which a given quarantine plan is going to work, at least compared against another quarantine plan. So in other words, will the quarantine work is the question we need to ask. How much will it cost? The question we need to ask. How serious is the disease? How much does it need to be quarantined? Which we'll measure on 2 different metrics. How fatal is it and how disabling is it? If it knocks you out for 2 weeks and puts you in the hospital for 2 weeks but doesn't kill you, well, that's still very serious. If it either kills you dead or doesn't do anything to you, but it kills you dead 30% of the time, that's very serious. If you got a disease that most people don't notice they have, and that only the very elderly and already sick are killed by primarily, that's not so severe on both metrics. So Something to consider. Will the quarantine work? Maybe if we had done it earlier, it would have worked, says Anchorage Blood, but we didn't, and now it's into the population. So show me where our quarantine efforts ought to be applied so that they are maximally effective. Well, to do that, you're going to have to understand what makes the quarantine effective or not, right? You don't want to talk about that. Why would I not think limiting it would not slow it down? Limiting what? Limiting human-to-human contact? Okay, so lyrophysical, there's a couple problems here. Number one, let's say I had tickets to the basketball game. I don't go to the basketball game. What do? I go to the grocery store. And I'm in a crowd of people again. In fact, in the game, I'm just sitting next to a small group of people around me, and I stay in that small group of people. So I am only likely to infect those people right there. Whereas in the grocery store, I'm walking around and constantly passing everybody. Everybody comes into close enough contact with me that they might get the disease. So is it really better for me to not, if I'm infected, what's worse? Go to the grocery store, then to the post office, run by my kid's school and surprise them with cupcakes. The class was cupcakes because I didn't go to that game, or going to the game. Which is better? Which is a better way for me to spread disease? Going from place to place all around the world, running errands in crowded places, or go to the basketball game? How do I better spread the disease? Anybody think about things like that at all? No, not at all. Nobody thinks like, hey, maybe one of the unintended consequences of this is that instead of keeping these people in one place, infecting just a group of people around them potentially for all day, that they go bounce from place to place and spread the disease more widely. Maybe that's an unintended consequence of this. Does anybody think about this? Did anybody ask any of these questions? Now, what you're saying is, lyrophysical, let's do something. We have to do something. We have to limit contact between people. So no basketball game. But do you hear what I'm saying? You might actually end up spreading the disease more widely. Instead of going to the basketball game now, look, let's say this. I was going up to Vegas to go see this basketball game, but now I can't go sit in the stands. So, since I got the day, instead of going to the stands, I'm going to go shopping and I'm going to walk around the strip. I'm going to go out to breakfast. I'm going to go out to dinner. I'm going to go see a show in Vegas that night. I'm going to go see Cirque du Soleil or something. Can't go to the basketball games anymore. I had tickets for a full day of Pac-12 Conference Championship at the Mandalay Bay Stadium. But all of those people who have those tickets are still in Vegas, presumably, right? They're still walking around. They're still interacting with a bunch of people. So how are you convincing me in any way, shape, or form that you are helping by canceling that event? At least at that event, all those people stay in the same place all day long. And now I've spent my day in Vegas. I've gone, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run over to, I'm going to be crazy today. I'm going to go to the Hoover Dam. I'm going to go take some pictures over there. And now we got some other tourists there at the Hoover Dam from Sacramento. And they're also there with their kids. And now all of a sudden they take it back to Sacramento. Now I wouldn't have interacted with that person if I stayed at the game. So nobody's actually thinking about how disease vectors work. My argument is not remotely invalid, lyrophysical. You've given me no reason to think it is. There's no reason to believe any of these efforts are helping at all. Nobody's provided any reason. I've given you a scenario story there that explains how it might actually hurt. Nobody's responded to any of these unintended consequences points. So I am right and you are wrong, period. A forced lockdown may or may not help, but what if the situation gets worse and the healthcare system is not able to cope with it, or worse, people are not able to pay to get themselves cared? Okay, well, look, the thing is, what if politics ends up spending all of our money preventing possible harms that conceivably could happen? We need to deal with bridges as we cross them. We need to adapt to situations, not necessarily try to prevent them when they're already unpreventable. So there's a difference between mitigating and adapting. Yeah, I heard about that. That's nuts. Temporary brain damage. I don't buy temporary brain damage. What a moron. See, that's SI polar. That's freaking proves he's an ENTJ. He puts himself in a medically induced coma to avoid having to deal with the benzo withdrawals. That is so dumb. Talk about not recognizing the importance of being fundamentally in the moment and as an animal. That is so goddamn SI polar. I gotta smoke a cigarette. I know quarantines are mitigation. They're not adaptation. What I'm saying is adapt, don't mitigate in this case because mitigation is not going to work. There's prevention, mitigation, and adaptation. Yeah, I'm interested in correctness, Cloud. I'm not interested in the thing I'm being correct about. It doesn't matter. You know, he's not INFJ. He's ENTJ. That fucker's an ENTJ. No doubt about it. I got to smoke a cigarette. And you can't stop me. Your logic makes sense on normal day, but not if there were a huge outbreak. It's proven people move less when there's some virus spreading. Okay, well, what I'm saying is, I'm not arguing. I'm saying, Jesus Christ. I'm not saying that we ought to, whatever. I'm saying if you're going to advocate taking some sort of stupid action, like closing the basketball games to fans, justify it. For God's sake, justify it. Tell me that you've thought through some of the impacts. It might be the case that those people don't travel around as much because of the virus. Or there's lots of people like me, though, who think this is bullshit. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want. And they might be infected. I might be infected right now. I do have a cough. I do have sniffles and stuff like that. I might be infected. Jordan Peterson could be ENFJ. That's possible too, but I doubt it. ENFJs usually aren't that smart. No offense, ENFJs. I love you, Andy. No, Octavio Silva, I'm not going to get tested. If I already have it, he does too. He's got the same sort of cold that I do right now. I've already been to the nursing home. I was at the nursing home. You know, it's like I told you, this is the sort of insanity that makes me go insane. At the nursing home, because of the virus. It used to be you signed in at the bottom. I'm here to visit Jane Strauss. You sign in. You go to the top and you go up there and blah, blah, blah. Now, because of the virus, you sign in, go up to the top. You go to the top door, you go through there, and you sign in again. Somebody came up with this protocol. Somebody said, what are we going to do about the virus? And somebody else said, let's put another clipboard there and make people sign in twice. That will do what exactly? I mean, that is the sort of thing that just makes me want to scream at somebody. Don't do stupid ass shit just to show you're doing something. That's not good. TI is not intelligence, Ethan. Jordan Peterson is a TE-Dom, TENI. And Jordan Peterson is not very particularly smart either. So the U.S. government is thinking of a lockdown. What does that mean? Like martial law? That's insane. Would anybody support that shit? Does anybody here think that we should have martial law? You know, curfew, compel everybody to stay in their house, etc. It's ridiculous. This is not that harmful of a virus. This is the fucking problem, right? People get all alarmist about shit. And the reality is, you're talking about an extremely low fatality thing that for most people, it doesn't even harm them at all. It doesn't even, they barely even notice it. I hope I do have it right now. Just so I can make my fucking point, you know? It's ridiculous. All right. I agree with you, Dave Sanderson. Jordan Peterson is an ENTJ, period. ENTJ. That's SI polar. Yeah, they trash their bodies, get addicted to benzos, then put themselves in a medical coma to avoid the discomfort of benzo withdrawal. There is no normal amount. A quarantine is by definition an emergent situation, an emergency, quote unquote. Like you've got a chance to keep this thing contained. If it gets out, it's all over, you know? So the point is, at some point you make a decision, all right, there's no point in quarantine anymore. It's too widespread. So what justifies that decision? You know? Yeah, Rachel, if flights get canceled and stuff, I'm driving to New York to get you. Jordan Peterson is worth listening to and learning from. He speaks well, explains allegory, stories, and fables. Yeah, I feel sad for him because he's not a meta analyst. That's what it boils down to, and he's not been exposed to meta analysis from somebody that he could really talk to and explain things to him. Like Jordan Peterson needed me, basically, to explain things. He didn't. Of course, he never would have accepted that because it would have required too much TI valuing. Even in the fifth, well, maybe in the fifth slot he would have. I don't know. Where are you at, Winston's mom? If I do have to drive to New York, probably Rachel and I would be more likely to stop on the way back. If I have to drive to New York, I'm going to try to just sort of push straight through, like go 16 hours, hotel, 16 hours or whatever. What is it, 32 hours to New York? Let me see how long it takes to drive to New York. If I do drive, the thing is, what's the date today? Peterson doesn't annoy me. I'm not annoyed by him. I just generally feel like sorry for him. Look, if you want to be a public figure, a public intellectual like Jordan Peterson, you need certain skills. I'm qualified for the role, and I have what one needs to have to do that thing, right? But he doesn't, and it's not his fault. He never will. He'll always be susceptible to certain kinds of attack because he's too much locked into his function frames, you know? He's too much locked into TE and NI. He's not understanding that a lot of things need to be particularized, that universalization doesn't work. But of course, it's naturally that he's going to be highly focused on universalization because he's an NI tool user. But I'm saying he needs exposure to all of this stuff that we're talking about. You could take some advice from him too, to be honest, probably more than him from you. Well, in terms of in terms of life outcomes, obviously he's a lot more successful than I am. So in terms of practicalities to eat stuff, I'm sure I could take plenty of advice from him and that would be a good thing. But in terms of correctness, he needs to listen to me. And obviously I think correctness is more important. So that's whatever. The lobster he shacks so much. The thing to remember about Jordan Peterson is he says a lot of stuff and he's known for saying certain things. So it's like like he's known to be talking about masculinity, femininity, and stuff like that. Well, he talks about all kinds of shit, but that's a juicier topic. So he's thought about it as being this masculine, talking about masculinity a lot. I talk about masculinity some too. Like I talk about, but see, I don't link it that much to being a man or being a woman. Yeah, I'm 48, Claude. I link it more to being a person of character or not, you know? It's like my being a person of character does not really link very strongly to masculinity in my mind. Gender is a lot more real than race. I agree. Dave Sanderson, I don't disagree with that. Because gender links to sex, and sex is a real thing. Sex is a concrete physical aspect of self. So it's like, your physical body has a gender, and that's the sex, and that's objective and determinate externally to anybody. Hi, Nicolay Shea. How's your life coaching thing going along? You made some progress that one time, which is great. I have a whole 9 years to get more successful than he is now. Thanks, Claude. I appreciate you giving me the 9 years. I'll work on it. Hello, math class. How do knowledge functions interact with the fields? How do the knowledge functions interact with the fields? Okay, well, so the SI is native to the internal physical field, and NI is native to the internal metaphysical field. Basically, so it works like this. I guess it's instructive to look at E and P to see how they sort of interact. So for me, I've got SI conscious and NI unconscious, which means I note an example from my life. My dad did this. And I extrapolate from that to create NE. Well, this probably means, or maybe means, that ESTJs are like, yeah. And then I check that with against two different things. One, I check it against TI. Is ESTJs being like, yeah, consistent or inconsistent with what I already know about ESTJs and other things that I say about ESTJs? And then second, I check it. We could do it right after this video. I'm going to end this about 10 minutes anyway, if you're available. I'm going to check it with NI, which is to say, does it resonate as universally so, or just an aspect of my dad's particular expression of self? In other words, if we were talking about my dad drinks warm Diet Coke. He used to. He doesn't seem to do this anymore, but he used to always have a warm Diet Coke in the drink holder in his car, and he just drank it all day long. And then when he run out of it, he'd get another warm Diet Coke. That's just how it was. Now, so I might say SI. My dad does this. He's an ESTJ. So here's the hypothesis. ESTJs drink warm Diet Coke. Well, I check it with my TI. Is it inconsistent with anything I'm saying concurrently? Currently, no, not really. Not inconsistent with anything, except there's just not really any reason to think that that would be universalized. So then I go, okay, well, it's not really inconsistent. I check it against NI. Does this seem like the sort of thing that is universalizable? Like that all ESTJs have an affinity for Diet Coke? No, it doesn't. It seems like a particularist thing. So I'm going to NI reject this notion that ESTJs drink warm Diet Coke because even though it doesn't violate my TI, it doesn't run inconsistent with anything in the status quo. It doesn't validate against NI. So because I'm SI first, I start with a personal example, and then I do the calculations against TI first because that's conscious, and then against NI because ultimately my NE needs to know that the thing is something that can be expressed as a communicative whole that resonates or works on FE, my third slot. So the information flow, look, so okay, like this. This is I'm being through time right now, okay? I read your thing. Information flow originates from inside. That's what makes it interact on the internal field. So here you have a metaphysical object on the external metaphysical field here, which is this question, okay? I read the question and I TI process it. What does it mean, so to speak? Information flow originates from the inside. So my first thing that I'm reading through, my TI goes no to that. Information flow, like everything's inside of you, okay? But the information flow here began on the external metaphysical field. I read that object on the external metaphysical field and I process it internally with my TI. That's where I go no before I say it out loud. And I'm not even sure why yet I'm saying no, but that's probably more of an NI response to it. That's not right. And then but I guess it's TI. I go no, and then I explain no because this is an example right here. That's what makes it interact on the internal field. It doesn't interact. So it's like I take the information from outside, it comes here, I deliberate about it very quickly and say, no, that's wrong. I explain to you why it's wrong. That means to say, I put it back out on the metaphysical external field. And for me, in the process there, I've accessed something that I already know that makes it such that how to answer that question, namely that all cognition occurs within an individual, but that it doesn't mean that all expressions of self occur within an individual, and there is an external metaphysical field like this. How is it possible to devalue your third slot function when it's so active and conscious? It's because it often runs afoul of your second, and when you're young, you prioritize your ability to use your tool function until you realize that whenever you fail to account for your third slot function, it hurts. So you become more nuanced about it. There's a time period for every ENTP when they're like, I don't care how it looks, I'm right. And they're lying. They do care how it looks, and they are right, but they need to change the way they're presenting it. So, additionally, ENTPs will always have a problem potentially if you're like 8 like me with this issue of tone, where everyone goes, Eric, it's not about what you're saying, it's about your tone. You need to change your tone, okay, mister? I don't like being spoken to like that. Of course, I always point out, look, I don't start off with some sort of angry tone. People try to pull tricks and nonsense on me, and then they get yelled at, Would you like to be famous? I don't know my type, but I would love to be one. You'd like to be famous? I want to be famous for sure. I would like to be mega successful celebrity, as Winston's mom says there. I'm not going to dissemble about that. I totally want to be famous. I've always wanted to be famous. the point is, it's a matter of, because we're so external, because ENTPs are so external field, right? We're about the external metaphysical field. We're about, let's make everything external metaphysical field so we can all look at it and we can all judge it. Let's not have things be in secret where it's privacy, where you get to cordon off some section of the external metaphysical field where just you and Joe get to look at it. I don't like that, you know? Let's see. So, okay, I will do tarot next very soon. Okay, and then we'll wrap this up. So, all right, let me pull this poll, and I'll do cards. I agree. I say they need. I mean, it's don't shield yourself from critique. You know, it's like Eileen said earlier, she's never seen me change my opinion on something. I don't shield myself from critique. I'm here taking all comers. You know, you have your points, I respond to them. I don't ignore them. Sometimes I do encounter arguments I haven't considered before, and I always take them. I always go, ooh, if it proves me wrong or something, great, fine, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's temporary. What's important is improving my arsenal of correctnesses. Using all the tools. I tell kids when in a debate, take what you can from every round, from every debater. Every debater who does something good, take that from them. Cop that shit. Steal that trick. FI fourth person wants to be a psychologist. He thinks he can understand people. Well, Cloud, let me tell you, I'm having a little bit of an issue with an FI fourth person psychologist right now, in fact, by the name of Janet. Janet and I got off on the wrong foot. Am I an Negro mate? I'm 784. You gotta go. You gotta go. See you later. I say thee nay. You gotta go. You gotta go. See you later. I say thee nay. Now, a destiny awaits my beloved Rachel Appaloosa. Rachel Appaloosa, your soul yearns for. Rachel Appaloosa's soul yearns for this. That is the 6 of Pence. Now, get ready. Get ready for excitement. Get ready for truth. Rachel Appaloosa's mind longs for this. Your mind longs for the Knight of Cups. Your mind longs for a cup full of roses. Let's see what your heart longs for. That's interesting. You would think that would be your heart card, but no, that was your mind card. Odd. Seems like right now your mind's on love, Rachel. Here's what your heart longs for. The devil? Bye, anchor Jason Blood. Your heart longs for the devil. Your soul longs for community. And your mind longs for love. Okay, well, maybe your heart doesn't long for that. Maybe your heart echoes the I would say that when your heart is not respected, that's what happens. Okay? That's what I would say. That's an interesting poll. Interesting poll. Okay, who else wants a poll? Let's see. Winston's mom, here you go. Winston's mom, it's okay. Winston's mom, here you go. You're going to have some fun today. Let's find out what's in your soul. What your soul card is today. Your soul card is the Tower. Ouch. Winston's mom. Your soul is the tower? Sometimes I don't like to see what these cards have to say to me. Okay, let's see what your mind is, Winston's mom. Changes. Winston's mom's mind. The Hierophant. That seems kind of true for her. Now her heart. In the heart of Winston's mom. Heart of Winston's mom is justice. Your heart is justice, Winston's mom. Your mind is traditional. Your soul is I guess your soul is most at home in the middle of upheaval. But in your heart, you seek justice. That means you prioritize your heart over your soul and your mind, I guess, your spirit, I should say. Let's see. Now I'm going to pull some cards for David Sanderson. Here is your soul card. It popped right out for you. It says your soul is constantly transitioning. Are you transitioning? Are you pre or post-op, David? Your soul, I mean your spirit. Is your spirit pre or post-op? David Sanderson's mind is 8 cups. He's got 8 cups on his mind. What's he going to do with all those cups? What's he going to do with 8 log cups? Looks like he could put some stuff inside of each of those 8 cups. Let's see what the 8 of cups is. Sudden upheaval is your soul. New beginnings, letting go, endings, change, spiritual transformation. That's your soul. Your mind is walking away, letting go, escapism, discovery, withdrawal, looking for truth. And your heart. Page of Cups. Childish, sort of teenagey love, I think that is. Kind of something like that. We'll see what Octavia says. Let's find out. Happier, important news, inner child, idealism, sensitivity, nativity, becoming emotionally mature. That's your heart. All right, anybody else want some cards? Let's see. I got to do Octavia, I know. I need to trim my mustache. It's making my nose itch constantly. Octavia, one single card, huh? Okay. Octavia, your single card will come after Cloud's 3 cards, okay? Cloud, your soul. This one. This one again. Your soul is a Page of Cups. This one was, we just got this one too. Happy, important news. This is your soul, inner child, inner your spirit, you could say, maybe. Now, let's see. Oh, your mind. Your mind is 10 cups. Wow. Look at that. What an emotional mind. On your mind is happy times with rainbows and kissing that girl. Look, Cloud. On your mind, you're kissing one chick, you got another chick sitting on a rainbow behind you. Congratulations. All right, now, in your heart. What's in your heart? This is in your heart. 3 sticks. I got to go, baby. Listen, I love you, but in my heart, I got to split. Bro, look. I'm leaving on this boat. I'm sorry about your daughter. I had a great time. I know she had a great time. I'm sorry you're so upset about it, but me and this boat are leaving. That's in your heart. Okay. Bye, Rachel. Where are you going? Where's my Rachel Appaloosa going? I love her though. Where's she going? Oh, are you moving? Getting me some stuff? Okay, cool. You do your thing, baby. That's what you got to do. You got to do. All right. So those were the 3 cards for the Clizoud, and let's go for Lero Fagical. Lero Fagical, this is your soul. It's the King of Pentacle. That's your spirit. Your spirit. Lero Fagical, here is your mind. Here is the mind that's inside your heart. Here is the heart that's inside your mind. I mean, here is the mind that's inside your head. This is for the mind that's inside your head. Okay. Oop, it's this one. Hierophant. That's your mind, Fagical. And what is your heart? The most tender of organs indeed. Tender inside of you, what does it see? Oh, your heart is the sun. You better watch out, or your soul and your mind are going to get sunburned. Inside of your chest are a bunch of flying babies. So, that's you get the gist of it. I think she's giving away her clothes mostly. I told her she won't be needing any clothes when she gets here. Because, I'll be humping her all the time. Just joking. I didn't really say that to her at all. Okay, so now, Octavio Silva. You seem to be the last one. You need to get a card now. Here we go. Rachel, do you want to answer Tom Gibson? I'm curious too. Who are we talking about? Who are we talking about? Who are we talking about? Octavia Silva wants one card, a single card. Well, I was just saying, Rachel, I was just saying, yeah, I'm curious about your answer as to whether there's any deeper meaning to that. When you say you're putting love into it, does it mean you're intentionally sort of willing some NI quality onto the things you're giving away so that the people who get things will receive it? This is your card right here, Octavio Silva. Are you ready for it? It's going to be an exciting adventure in card pull. Let's see what it is. The Chariot. Love the flag. Love it. Did you design that flag, Octavio Silva? Because I am loving it. It's like haphazard supernova effect in Photoshop on a sort of random cutout shaped flag. I like it. I like it. Victory, overcoming obstacles, success, determination, willpower, self-discipline, hard work, and focus. That's what you get. That's what you got. That's what you. Okay. Tom Jickelson. You didn't get cards. That's not fair. Let's do Tom Jickelson now. Tom Jickelson. Your soul, your spirit, you might say. Your spirit, I think. No, for some reason, this one is your history. Not sure why. Your history. The tower. Tom Jickerson's history is the tower. Not his soul. I don't know why not his soul. Not sure why. What is his soul? This is his soul. Taking care of shit, balancing shit, paying your bills, making sure that you got that pentacle on one hand, the other one on the other hand, and you get your feet ready to do the ha-cha-cha. That's your soul. Okay. Now, this is your mind. Temperance. You got temperance on the mind. Put down that fifth of Jack Daniels, Tom. You've had enough. Time to go home. And your heart. Let's find out. Let's find out your heart. What would be in your heart? 2 things. Spilt milk and 3 swords. Ooh, kind of a tragic heart there, Tom. Sounds like you got a little bit of sorrow over a little bit of betrayal. I'm sorry to hear that. But listen, I want you to focus on these ones right here. Just focus on these ones. See those 2 cups? You're ignoring those right now. It's time to pay attention to those 2 cups. Those are the good cups right there. Okay, these are the good cups. These cups, they're bad cups. These 3 swords and these 3 cups right here, they get together. That's the linkage, you see. When you feel these swords, they feel like spilled cups. Okay, so that's my analysis of you. I cry all the time. I'm a big cry baby. Why? 'Cause I don't know, maybe I need constantly to dampen my face with lots of tears. All right, so let me do me now. Okay, what am I going to do me about here? I'm going to start with, for some reason, my anxiety. My anxiety. I don't know why. This one. That's my anxiety. Why does this one keep popping up? Huh. My anxiety. Yeah, I do fear upheaval and chaos. That's true. What's this? My comfort. My comfort is 4 swords. Not sure what 4 swords is. Looks like I'm musing, deliberating, planning, or something like that. Maybe that's my comfort. Faith is my comfort. There you go. In times of stress and solitude and stuff, faith is my comfort. And okay. And then my strength. 6 pentacles, community. My comfort is sleeping. My anxiety is chaos. My comfort is sleeping. My strength is community. My weakness, I guess, would be next, huh? My weakness. Me? Overindulge? That's funny. Can you believe that shit? No, that's not transition. Oh, it is transition. I thought it was temperance. I misread it. My weakness is that. It's my weakness, huh? That's my weakness is death. Is what this one is? Interesting. Could be interpreted in a couple of different ways. So, what did you? Okay, anxiety, comfort, strength, weakness. Let me do myself, soul, mind, heart too. Spirit, spirit, Ace of Cups, mind, Page of Swords, and heart. Queen of Pentacles. My heart's a woman. I think that's true. I think my heart is a woman. No, never. Rachel and I are the final of my life relationships. I think because of that, the final romantic relationship, it sort of enables me to start lots of new relationships with random people. Engage in relationships that are just burgeoning now. So, for example, she won't talk about the coherence of the arguments themselves or make herself reframe the arguments such that it has logical coherence to it. I want to see the top part of that. You'll say you're debating semantics. Yeah, it's frustrating. Whenever she says you're debating semantics, you should point out you are too. You're just doing it really badly. You think that your words aren't subject to the same critique that you're applying to mine, but they are. And as a consequence, you have to justify them the same way you expect me to justify mine. You're trying to apply a different standard to yourself than you are to me. Everybody's responsible to use TI. Everybody does. Everybody when they talk have to make some sort of sense. Like even Cloud, TI Polar wouldn't say in the same sentence, I am going to I believe that tree planting is important, that tree planting is not important. And it's like even he understands that there's some basic consistency things. So for example, Cloud will make an argument that says, okay, Eric, this is SI because it's linking to the past. Now, this is a consistency based argument. He's saying, here's what you said in the past about SI, and I'm linking this behavior of yours to SI, and here's why. And it's logically, it makes sense, right? It's not completely inconsistent. Even TI Polar has some notion of the fact that words have to make some sense, because Cloud, the person making the claim, has the burden of proof. Your saying you are not TI Polar does not make it so. One type, from my perspective, is an objective thing, not a personal decision. It's not like race, in my opinion. Ten sticks. Why does this one keep coming up? What is 10 sticks again? This card keeps coming up in my tarot times. for me. I think about this card a lot. So I think about this guy doing this thing right here. What is 10 sticks? Overburdened obligation, burn out, uphill struggles, again, too much. And then site keep going like fun. Huh. I guess that's while I'm waiting for Rachel. I feel a little 10 sticky. This guy. I feel like this guy sometimes. Like, God damn it. I just moved these leaves out of the way. And now more leaves have fallen down here. And I've got this shovel, and it's not very big. And I got this bright stuff coming out of my head. You know. Oh, right, that one. Yeah, that card. That's how I feel a little bit right now. But I tell you something, I had some basic relief about this yesterday inside. As I'm hanging out more with my dad, we're watching basketball and stuff. I'm sort of eyeing the reality of things. Because I tend to be, my dad makes me a little nervous, you know? And nobody's best served by being in an environment where they're not completely comfortable, where they're kind of a little bit eggshelly. I have no reason to be that eggshelly, really. My dad's great, but I try to understand on an NI level what his understanding of me is on an NI level, so to speak. And it just doesn't work like that. He doesn't have that kind of NI understanding. I just need to spend more time with him watching basketball and just generally spend more time with him. I'm going to go in a little bit and start watching basketball because the Pac-12 tournament's on and USC's coming on like 2:30 p.m. When ISTJs get mad, they start speaking gibberish. Sometimes TI polar types can be jerks. Well, TI polar is very stubborn, you know, and it says things like, what? They canceled the Pac-12 tournament? What? Why? Oh my God, that's so dumb. Why? God, that's dumb. Ridiculous. Nobody's listening to me. I'm the only person who's talking any sense around here, and nobody's listening to me. They better not cancel March Madness. Well, God, I was really looking forward to that game. See the harm that's being done here? Lyrophagical. The decision to make that is correct is the one that is most defensible. It doesn't matter your qualifications or titles. If I am correct, then I am correct. If they are right, they will win the argument. If they can't win the argument, they are wrong. Now, note here, these are actual harms being incurred. What benefits have been incurred, have been attained to justify these harms? Can you point to any? No. No benefits. Anybody can point to. Just speculative bullshit. Nobody can explain why it is or how it is this is going to help. Nobody's even bothered to try. Nobody bothered to try to weigh the cost versus the benefits. Even if it does help, how much does it have to help to justify the harms that it's doing? The harms are concrete, demonstrative. I can count them. People like me all over are pissed off or sad or whatever. Does that matter? Yeah, it matters. I was going to go spend time with my dad watching this game. Is it important to me to be able to spend time with my dad? Yeah, it is. What else do we spend time on? It's hard to find things we have in common, you know? My dad likes to watch basketball with me, mute the TV every time he thinks of something he wants to say it to me, and then sometimes wait for me to respond or sometimes just unmuted at that point. He likes to do that. I like to be there for him to do that too. So does it harm me and my dad? Yeah. Does it harm us? Do you think they don't consider extremely much before they make action? Well, I mean, again, you're appealing to authority. I don't care if they considered super extremely much. The fact is, they made the wrong decision because of the reasons I'm articulating. There's not any justification for this. There's no reason to believe that the benefits are going to outweigh the harms. If there were, I wouldn't be making these arguments. They wouldn't be winning. You wouldn't be resorting to that stupid argument. If in fact they are going to stop these flights, I want to know because I want to start planning my trip to go get Rachel. Let me Google this. Are they going to cancel flights within the U.S.? Come on in, Dad. Hi.
I just made all this stuff. I just made a corn and crab chowder if you're interested.
I will come in and eat it shortly, yeah.
Okay. I have the bread at the bottom of the bowl and then.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dad. You know the games are all canceled, right?
All right.
Oh, he didn't hear me. All right, well, it looks like JetBlue is probably only going to we shouldn't have any problem, it looks like right now, but so let me see here. Hmm. Okay, it doesn't appear that they're going to close flights domestically. I might call JetBlue and make sure they're going to keep the flight. Hmm. They're dropping change fees. Okay. Well, I gotta go. I'm gonna go eat with my dad. Let him know that in fact the games have been canceled. Rachel, if you're still here, I will call you after lunch and I connect to my dark side as I need to be. I don't want to connect to my dark side. I don't believe in pursuing my darkness. To the extent that it's there, I try to avoid connecting with it. Anyway, I gotta go. Bye.